The Broncos are looking for a sixth straight win. They are headed down to the Lone Star State. Will they be the best team in Texas after beating the Cowboys? They take on the Texans. Chris Harris Jr. joins me to break it all down. Football Fridays starts now. I got my Halloween costume. Working on it. Get these over damn shoulder pads. Check out my Halloween costume. See if you can tell. Wait, I'm not done.
Man, it looked like you got a game jersey.
I do have a game jersey. It's signed and everything. So
Yes,
see if you can tell who I'm being for Halloween.
Strap Harris.
Or I found this too. I don't know how much money you made on these.
Oh yeah. Oh, we did pretty good, man.
No fly
got the
zone.
no
You
fly
can't.
zone.
I don't know if you can tell with the zoom. Which hat do we like? The no fly zone or the Jayhawks? What's less distracting?
Let's go. Jayhawks. They disappointed us this week. So
Yeah. Basketball season's upon us. I'll actually be there for the opener Monday. But so you refuse to wear Halloween costumes, even though I asked, hey, are we going to wear Halloween costumes? And I had a different one I was going to wear. My friends on Fox 31 and Channel 2, I talk to them every Friday. They didn't do like that's a TV morning show thing is Halloween costume. So I flipped it on. They're all in suits. I was going to wear my Where's Waldo costume, but I'm going to be Strap Harris today for Football Fridays. You're not wearing a Halloween costume now, but you have 5 girls. I guess I have 2 questions. 1, do you and your wife dress up with them to go trick-or-treating? And 2, are any or all of them K-pop Demon Hunters characters? Because that is far and away the most popular costume that I know. My daughter, we couldn't get one because they were all sold out. Watching the Halloween parade at my son's school, every 6th costume was a K-pop Demon Hunter character.
I think we did. We've done that before, but we didn't plan on it this year. We kind of just let the girls do their thing. But we did the Frozen. I think I was Olaf one year. We did Despicable Me. I was what's the guy with the big nose? Gru. Yeah. We did that. This year I don't know what they're gonna do. They haven't showed me yet, so I'll be surprised and see what they wear.
How's the Dallas weather? I guarantee it's warmer than here. It's 55 here today. A little cool. Little crisp.
Man, we got like a winter storm out here, man. It's a winter blast, man. So it's been pretty cold and windy. So hopefully today, today it's about 65, so it's a little bit better.
I remember when I was in 8th grade in Dallas, it being one of the coldest Halloweens I can ever remember. Now 47 years on this earth, like it was cold, and we ended up cutting trick-or-treating short and watching Silence of the Lambs at somebody's house. But do you like Halloween? Do you like getting dressed up, especially with the team parties? Y'all had some good ones. Vaughn threw some good ones, and you were a part of those. Were you at the one where Chad Kelly got in too much trouble?
Yeah, I was at all of them, and me and the wife. But every year was just fun, good team bonding. And I think it first started with Payton throwing one, and then Vaughn kind of just took it over. He was like, "Nah, we're gonna do a little bit better than you, Payton, and take it to the next level." And then you seen the level. I think it went TMZ, right? So that's the level we took it in.
Yeah.
And man, it was always. And then we started inviting all the teams.
Nuggets.
Yeah, everybody was there. So then that even made it even crazier. But it was definitely a good bonding for the team. And you got to have stuff like that. I'm pretty sure they had a little Halloween party.
They did, and I talked to Cortland Sutton. I asked him about it. I asked Bo Nix about it. There were some really cool costumes. I think PS2 and his girlfriend won it. He was Jack Skellington, and she was his bride. And their costumes looked awesome. NFL picked them as one of like the highlights of like, hey, look at all the players having fun around the league. So yeah, it looked really cool. Before we get to PS2 though, let's talk about last week's game and that beat down of the Cowboys. I know you touched on it with obviously Shelby and Ryan Harris on We're the Harrises earlier in the week, but what was your biggest takeaway on how they curb stomped the city where you're a resident, the city where I grew up? It was not much of a contest really from about the midway through the first quarter.
Well, it was always going to be a great test going against the number 1 offense, Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb, Pickens. These are 2 number 1 receivers. And they've been high all year. So to be able to have a great showing at home, that's what you want. So even though it hurts losing PS2, Moss plays solid. Chris Abrams-James plays solid. Barron, the rookie, came out and had an interception. That's what you got to do, man. And Offense, they continue to get better. O-line has played pretty solid all year, being able to keep Bo Nix clean and allow him to make all the throws necessary in this offense. So it was a rookie showing, a rookie blast. RJ Harvey went off 3 touchdowns. Pat Bryant was able to catch one down the sideline, a dot by Bo Nix. It was a great team effort. So that's what you want to see from a team that's trying to go win the AFC West division and knock off a team that's won it. How many years now have the Chiefs won it in a row?
Well, let's go back to Patrick Mahomes' first year. So since 2016, they've won it. That 9 straight years. Quick math. 9 straight years. Yeah, because they won it with Alex and company right after y'all won Super Bowl 50. I guess 10 straight. Did they win it that next year in 2016, or the Chargers win it?
They won it every year.
Yeah, so they won it. Alex won it that year in 2016, and then 2017 was Patrick's rookie year, where he only played obviously the one game. But yeah, so that's since 2016. So 10 straight seasons, something like that. What's crazy is, we've said Patrick Mahomes, and we'll get to the Chiefs, in a couple of weeks, but that he is what Elway was, the nemesis, the foe of what Elway was to the AFC West. But in John's 16 years, they only won the division 7 times. Even when they won the first Super Bowl 32, they were a wild card team. And so it just goes to show it's not easy to do what Tom Brady did, what Peyton Manning did in Indy, and then the 4 years here, or what Patrick Mahomes and company are doing now. Like what's happening in the NFC East, where they haven't had back-to-back winners every year, is what's great about the NFL. And even AFC North is another good one. The Ravens have been good. Steelers have been good, but they're still rotating. It's not, 5 years of the Steelers, 5 years of the Ravens. And so I think that's what makes it lucky.
Mahomes came into a perfect situation, right? When you fall in, when you have the fastest guy in the NFL, Tyreek Hill, then you got the number 1 tight end with Travis Kelce. You had a young, fresh Kareem Hunt. You had a solid O-line, defense, Chris Jones, and all those boys. So Patrick Mahomes fell into a great team, a good team already that just needed a quarterback, right? And with a great coach. So that's why Mahomes was able to be dominant. The Chiefs have been able to, been rolling so long. Is that, look at where he started with. Look at those weapons.
Yeah, if he goes to Jacksonville, not saying he wouldn't have gotten there at some point, but it helps. And Andy Reid, obviously, at the height of his powers, play calling wise, and Matt Nagy before he became a head coach, and so you had all that. Eric Bieniemy was obviously a big part of what they were doing there. So, but the Broncos are obviously making noise. And as we're looking at, because we touched on the Chiefs and their offense and defense are pretty good, the Broncos, and we'll get to the numbers here in a little bit when we look at the Texans, but they're top 10 in offense and defense. Looking back at the Cowboys real quickly, and again, you live down there, and it is a team that I cheered for growing up, and I'll still yell at the TV, but I don't lose an ounce of a wink of sleep thinking about them. I can't remember, and maybe you can one can come to the top of mind in recent years, or I'm sure ever, but a team that has more talent and potential on offense or on one side of the ball versus how bad they are on the other side. Like that gap for the Cowboys defense, even if they're fully healthy, but that Cowboys defense and that Cowboys offense, that gap to me feels bigger than any team. You talk about complimentary football. They have nothing to compliment. Can you remember a team that was so lopsided one way or the other in recent memory?
No, I mean, I haven't seen a defense this bad in a long time. When you look at the stats, the Cowboys are pretty much last in everything. And it, run, pass, third down, turnovers, it's bad. And big plays, every week they're giving up big plays at a record number, going into a defensive season. So I haven't seen a team so lopsided. And that's what we were supposed to do. You're supposed to go out there and dominate those guys. And we did that. We pushed them around with the O-line, with Miners. You see this guy. I mean, he's the pancake king, already. Bowles is playing great. The O-line is just, paving holes for Dobbins and Harvey. So they can't stop the run or the pass over there in Dallas. And it's going to take a while. Good thing Jerry has 2 first-round picks. I'm pretty sure his next couple drafts will be straight defense.
Yeah, one of those first-round picks is probably going to come pretty low with where the Packers are likely headed. But nonetheless, 2 first-round picks, you can turn that into something, or you can trade back and turn that into more quality players. I mean, that's the way I would look at it, unless there's 2 guys that they love. That's the thing is it's crazy how good the Cowboys have drafted on offense, especially up front, and how much they've missed other than Micah Parsons in that front seven really for the last half decade, if not more. But we don't even focus on the Cowboys. Let's look at what the Broncos did well. And so Bo Nix was asked, and I'm kind of paraphrasing, but about sustaining that offense, because you aren't going to see that JV defense really again the rest of the year. And we know it's a much tougher task this week. But here's Bo Nix quickly on kind of keeping it going with what they've done in the last 5 quarters offensively.
Well, I think it's just go back and proves that when we do well early in the drive and we get a few first downs and run the ball efficiently on drives, that we can, turn those into points. And, when you can run the ball, it's really important.
Yeah, so it's an easy answer, right? Run the ball leads to success.
Yeah. And that's part of Sean Payton's offense. He's always had a solid run game. And you got to be able to do that, to be able to work the play action, to work all his screens, to work that running back to the flat dump offs that he loves on third downs. So you got to be able to run the football, and that just opens it. It makes Bo Nix's job a lot easier as a second-year quarterback to be able to let the game come to him and really, get into the flow of the game, and just makes it easier on third downs. So we got to be able to be definitely run the football with Dobbins. He's playing great. That this guy looks like we need to re-sign him for sure. So, but it might be too early. It's still early. And he's had injury problems, so they might wait for the whole year. But let's keep riding Dobbins. Let's keep letting Harvey get those outside runs, and the Broncos got a chance every week to win.
Yeah, it's funny because you and I didn't necessarily go over this. David, our producer, did. But the next clip we were going to get is from J.K. Dobbins, who was asked, "Would you like a new contract, a multi-year deal here in Denver?"
Far as extension and stuff like that doesn't cross my mind. But me just wanting to be here in Denver, yes. Like I hope to, end my career here, and be here for the rest of my time in the NFL. And far as extension and all that, though, I don't think about that. I don't really think about that. But yeah, that would be nice because I want to be in Denver. Like I love it. I love the fan base. I think the fan base and I have a connection. I love my teammates, and I also love Sean Payton. I love the owners, and it's just like, But I don't think about the extension part. I just think about me being here because I love it. I love it. The beautiful mountains, and I love being in altitude. Now being, I'm used to it now. So, yeah.
You got to appreciate that. He's third in the league in rushing, and he said he wants to lead the league in rushing, that is his goal. It was funny because last week when he talked, he's like, I'm not injury prone. I just had 2 bad injuries. But then yesterday, right after, he's like, y'all may not remember, but I had 2 pretty bad injuries when I asked about, is that a goal to lead the league? And he's like, y'all may not remember. Like, no, we remember. You're the one that tried to downplay it. We remember how hurt you were. But would you sign him to an extension now, knowing that Russ is $30 million in dead cap, no dead cap money? You're going to have more room. The cap's going to go up next year. Would you sign him to 2 years, 16 to 20 million range? Like I'm looking guys like Ramondre Stevenson, David Montgomery, James Conner, Aaron Jones. Those guys are in the 8 to 10 million. DeAndre Swift, Tony Pollard in that 8 to 10 million range a year. Would you give him a 2-year deal like that, or maybe even a third? But
I'll give him like a 2-year 10, something like that.
10 total.
Yeah, like 5 a year running back.
Okay.
Because you got Harvey, he's still a young running back, and we don't know his ascension. So essentially, give him 2-year 10 guaranteed. Can he get more than that on the market? I don't know. What was the running back market hasn't been like outrageous.
Jaylen Warren was $6 million to take his job a year. I think it was obviously a few more years on that, but no, Jaylen Warren was a 2-year, $11 million deal to take his job in LA. So
yeah, around there, around 10, 15, 2-year, 15, around there. But
you can incentivize the hell out of it and be like, hey, if you do lead the league in rushing, you get this. If you make the Pro Bowl, if you make an All-Pro, and so that can, I think, help.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to be, the way he's playing, and as long as he stays healthy, he's going to be a sought-after guy. I'm surprised a lot of teams didn't. I thought he ran pretty good for the Chargers, right? He was tough. That's why we picked him up, because he ran hard versus the Broncos. So I'm excited to see what he does the rest of the year, and hopefully he keeps getting better and better, because when you kind of come in later, and you didn't do OTAs with the team, you kind of your legs a little bit behind. So hopefully now he's starting to get ready to go, and he's starting to peak out for sure.
Well, he's getting ready to go, and RJ Harvey's coming along to make his life easier. And what you have to appreciate, because I know, and maybe it's just circumstance, but you come in and Champ Bailey and Brian Dawkins are here, and then D Ware comes along as well. But you have vets that took you under their wing from the jump. Champ wasn't worried about you taking his job. He knew you would make his job easier and make his life better. J.K. Dobbins, and you have to believe him just based on his personality and how the locker room has gravitated towards him. He cannot speak highly enough about RJ Harvey and the love that he has for him and wanting him to be great, because he knows the better Harvey is, the better Dobbins will, they'll work hand in hand, and they're 6 years apart, or whatever, 5 years apart. And he knows the business too. Like, is he going to play to year 20 like Marcedes Lewis? No, but that he being helpful that goes around to the other 31 teams. Like, oh, we can bring him in and he can help our young room too, potentially. It doesn't work against you. Right.
Well, if he's already at the 5 mark, for a running back, he's already, kind of eclipsed that, average, the running back lifestyle in the NFL. So, shout out to him. But, Harvey, he's gonna be a guy, he's gonna be there. He got drafted there. So I'm pretty sure JK understands that. This is gonna be it's a homegrown kid, and so he's gonna get his touches. But right now, the way that Sean Payton's rotating them, it seems like it's working well for them. They feel comfortable with the situation, and sharing the touches, and hopefully that can continue to work in the game plan.
A couple more things that we're going to get to in terms of hearing from now back-to-back coaches. You were a rookie in 2011, and I know you don't feel old necessarily, but imagine a guy that came into the league 5 years before you in 2006, off the street, the Broncos go get Marcedes Lewis, who played every game and started a bunch of games last year for the Bears. Year 20, he was a rookie in 2006 with Brandon Marshall, the receiver, with Jay Cutler, with Elvis Dumerville, with those guys here. I mean, obviously he was in Jacksonville, with MJD, who's been on TV forever. They were rookies together. What do you think it says that they can get a guy off the street? Because they do need some depth there with Atkins banged up, Kroll getting surgery. And so for Marcedes Lewis, I'm sure you've had to cover here and there, and probably might have gotten blocked by, to walk in off the street in year 20. How crazy is that?
I mean, he's such a big body, man, and then him being able to block, and he'll be able to help the O-line, just be an assistant there. Some of these tight ends are just in the game to block, and they rarely get any routes or any passes towards them anyway. So you might as well bring in Marcedes Lewis, a guy that can block and be an extension to the tackles, that has experience with different type of fronts, and is capable of blocking the ends and being able to help with that, your protection. So I think it just overall it helps out the whole team, being able to have that vet. And, teams need that. There's not a lot of vet tight ends around the league anymore when you look around the board. So to be able to bring him in on our team, which we pretty much haven't used the tight end at all, a guy that can come in except for blocking. So at least we got a guy that experienced, and he's proven blocker.
Yeah, and he's on the practice squad, but you have to think he's going to get elevated the 3 times. They can elevate him, and then they'll put him on the roster, assuming that he's playing well enough, and there's no reason to think they won't otherwise. But here's Sean Payton on why bringing Marcedes Lewis made sense.
Well, he's someone you kind of follow his career, and I knew he'd been training. I know he's in great shape, and he's a tremendous blocker. I think you don't want to get caught where, man, it's got to be jumbo. And so we brought him in for a workout, brought him onto our practice squad. I'm glad he's here. He's a tremendous leader. I'm anxious for you guys to be around him. So good first day.
Well, when you hear him say you don't want to be jumbo, what he means there, right, is you don't want to just bring in all offensive linemen, even if some of them do have tight end history down, a million years ago in high school or junior high. You want a tight end that can block, but also still be a tight end.
Right. And that's all that it is. He's just saying offensively, we might need another big body out there, especially in the goal line or short yardage. in a way that he can be a receiver threat or a run threat. So that's a good pickup. With all the tight ends, I don't think it's a lot of good tight ends out there with that experience that he has. And our tight ends are pretty much, I think, how many tight ends have we had injured this year?
Well, Atkins was at the start of the year. Burton, who plays H-back, fullback, but certainly could line up there if they needed him to. He hasn't played at all this year, and now Lucas Kroll had surgery.
So 3 tight ends been out. So, and Ingram, he's kind of just straight receiver threat.
Yeah.
Right. And we're still not getting him involved all the way yet. So this is just a good pickup to bring a guy that can block. Ingram's not going to give you too much on the blocking, especially in the run blocking. So you can always bring Marcedes in and be able to open up some holes.
Yeah, because otherwise you're really just relying on Adam Troutman, and this gives you just more versatility. We know the one thing Sean likes is having options with his packages. So a week ago we talked about how healthy they were, minus again Kroll getting the surgery and the biceps injury for Ben Powers and then Parrott, but otherwise really healthy. What a difference a week makes. We see PS2 go down in the first half with a knee thing, goes into the tent, jogging on the side, gets back in the game. Then we don't see him go down, but at halftime, he doesn't come back out. We find out it's a pec strain. Before we hear from VJ, just what were your initial thoughts when you see pec strain, maybe IR? It seems like they're trying to keep him off it, and they're going to go week to week. But how much, especially for a corner, can a pec strain affect you?
Yeah. I never had a pec strain in my career, but I'm pretty sure it bothers them like a shoulder injury because you always got to punch and use your arms in that way. So depending on how severe the injury is, it'll probably, he might have to deal with it for the rest of the year, tackling, banging on it. In the NFL, injuries don't really go away all the time. They just go to where you can kind of be able to play through the pain. And so it'll be something that he'll have to fight through the whole year. The Broncos is going to have to make a big change and bring in, I don't know who they're going to put in. You got options with Chris Abrams-James. You got Barron you can put outside. Jaquan McMillan can go outside. So I don't know what they're going to do in their plan. But I'm interested to see how how VJ's system is going to adjust and be able to play the scheme versus the Texans, without a PS2.
Yeah, and Vance, of course, isn't going to give you too much. Certainly Sean isn't. We saw Chris Abrams-Drain come in and mostly play in that spot. But here's Vance when asked about what they lose with PS2 going out.
Well, Pat's a great player, obviously, Mike. You're never as good, as you could be, without your best players. So, but that being said, I'm confident in our group. It's a hand-picked roster, and every year you kind of talk about next man up. So here's a chance for a young guy to kind of play and make a name for himself.
Look, you're 5 years younger than Marcedes Lewis. Did you think about calling him and be like, hey, I can get you a couple, like I can make it in Houston. I'll see you down there. You didn't think about jumping in? Vance's defense.
I know I can go play for the Cowboys. For sure. I know I can go play for the Cowboys.
Sure. I guess give Steven.
And I'm right here and I'm ready. So, but I know I can play for them. But what Vance said, it's always next man up. It's an opportunity for the young guys to be able to show what they can do, and it's a big opportunity. Team Broncos sitting in a good spot going on the road. I don't think we've played. Have we won in Houston the last couple of years? I don't believe so.
2019, Drew Lock's rookie year, I think, was the last time they won there. And then a couple of years ago, it didn't go great. Nico Collins.
I was there in 2019. I think I played. Yeah. I was in that game.
Yeah, if you ought to play the fifth quarter, Deshaun Watson was turning it on a bit. It was a good thing that game ended in 4. But 2 years ago, Sean and Russ together there in Houston didn't go great.
Right. So we need to go on the road and be able to bring this to the road. And without Pat, it's going to be a great opportunity for these guys to show what they can do in the secondary. Great opportunity for Moss to show what he can do. And, I see VJ, playing a little bit more coverages, not being as much as aggressive as he has been, and relying on those guys to get a lot of pressure without as much blitzing. So that's kind of what I kind of see him doing, knowing him. But, when it gets down to the nitty gritty in the game, he's going to always go back to who he is. So, eventually I think probably third quarter, he starts sending the house again and blitzing, and these guys got to win on the island.
So I think the easy way to look, and we're about to jump into the film room, but the easy way to look at it is, oh, well, Kris Abrams-Draine jumped in the other day. That way nothing changes. Now, when you have a week to set up, you can vary your plan, and maybe it's a little Barron, maybe it's a little Abrams-Draine, but you mentioned something that I'm not sure we've thought about, and this may be in a world, and we know Sean's always going to overthink things, but you mentioned J-Mac can play outside, at least in base downs. Does it make sense to have J-Mac out there with Riley Moss as opposed to Abrams-Draine or Barron? And I'm not saying that, there's obviously pluses and minuses, but just because J-Mac's been on the field the most, and he's obviously in the slot, not just covering small guys anymore.
Yeah, I mean, if he wants to, take his game to the next level as being a guy that's not just a nickel corner, but can also play outside and be a corner, then he could. Then if I'm J-Mac, I want that opportunity. I want that opportunity to be able to show I can start on base on the outside and be able to hold up and then go on the inside. So, Barron, I don't know what their plan is with him. Was he just going to be slated to play nickel and dime, or was he going to be playing corner? So, usually the first round guy would start, right? You would think he would come in and start this week, especially with Pat going down. So, I would be surprised if Barron doesn't start.
But then with Abrams-Draine, who obviously stepped in, that didn't change anything that Barron was doing, anything Riley was doing, anything that obviously J-Mac's doing. And so that made sense on the fly. Sean Payton told us he thinks Kris Abrams-Draine might have the best hands on the team, receiver background. So then Court comes up right after Sean. I said, hey, your head coach just said, Chris, and he actually even mentioned, because someone asked him about it, he was like, oh, KD, he's like, he got that pick last year as a rookie. He's got really good hands. And so then I followed up with, well, your coach said this. He goes, hey, I'm going to yield to the coach. He's the head coach. He knows. But when you've got a kid whose ball skills are that developed, and knowing without Pat there, he'll get picked on maybe more than Riley's been picked on now. And however they decide if they're going to roll him or if they're going to leave him on a side. But that Abrams-Draine, played plenty last year when Riley was out, and those after Levi Wallace showed us he couldn't. I don't know. As much as you want the first rounder, I get it fundamentally. I don't hate Abrams-Draine starting and keeping Barron doing what he's doing for now.
Then why did they draft him then? If he wasn't going to start and play, why draft him with your first round pick? There was a lot of other options out there that could be playing right now, that are first round picks, right? That's a major investment that you put in on a guy. So, to see Kris Abrams-Draine, of course, I think he's, I always liked that kid. I always thought he was a solid player, and he definitely deserves to start. If you're going to really go down to production, he does deserve to start this game. But, with the politics and the business of it, you got a guy that you draft the first round, and we don't expect him just to be a dime corner all season, right? If you draft him first round, you expect him to play.
Well, and then maybe it's as simple as,
is he not good enough?
No, I don't think it's that at all. No, and all we hear about is how smart he is, but then you also, I think he's a leader in the clubhouse with MEs on the defensive side of the ball, is the sense I get talking to people in the know. And look, you watch the games every week and you know where he's supposed to be. And some of that is just, you can be super smart, but if you're a rookie, you're still going to make rookie mistakes. You just don't want to make the same mistake twice. What about a world where in base downs, it's not J-Mac, it is Barron, because that is going to be, in theory, simpler. And then when they do get in a nickel and dime, especially dime, Abrams-Draine is out wide, and he goes back to doing what he was doing as a dime backer, safety, wherever he was, that chess piece.
Yeah, I mean, that could work, It's just whatever's simple for Vance. And I think with Vance is he's probably going to lean on the older guys, put Kris Abrams outside and put Moss, and then probably J-Mac still in there and Barron still playing his dime role. But, when you play against a guy like a Nico Collins, a guy that's a big body receiver, very physical, you got to have some guys that can be able to cover him. And I'm pretty sure he's going to have a game plan for him, because right now that's really their only main target, him and then the tight end. So as long as they can be able to shut those two guys down, I think the Broncos DBs can cover the rest of the Texans receivers.
Now we go to the best part of the show every single week. We're going to jump into Chris Harris Jr.'s film room. So without further ado, and we're going to do this in chronological order. focused on the secondary, but this is early on, very first drive after the Bo Nix interception.
Yes, sir. Man to man, you can see everybody got their man, and Pat does a great job of staying on the upfield shoulder. Right, great job by Moss staying with his man, being able to get there, and then Pat being able to play the ball. Right, that's a tough play.
Behind him.
Yeah, he's behind him, and he's able to get hands on him fast and keep running and be able to make a play on the ball. Right,
I think that was like where he hurt his knee.
Yeah, you can fall down. Yeah, he probably fell down awkward right there. Yeah,
I think Pickens fell on his leg because I remember him rolling over and kind of doing an incomplete and then kind of like laying down.
And the Broncos are going to play man, so everybody does their job. Everybody does a good job of staying under their man. Linebackers have good eyes. Hufanga has great eyes and great slip right there. It was great coverage all the way around. The Broncos are pretty, they're pretty tight in the red zone right now.
How hard is it? I mean, they're the number one red zone defense in football. How hard is it when you're that compressed, only a couple of yards there, so not even full red, like inside the 5, inside the 3, and you're in man where everyone's going to be crossing to not get caught up in traffic? I don't even mean full-blown pick plays. I'm just saying accidental friendly fire. You run into another player from the other team that isn't trying to pick you at all. To be able to stay clean, how hard is that?
We call that tailpiping, right? You got to be able to have that tailpipe technique to be able to kind of squeeze through and not get picked. And it is a technique that you do have to learn, right? And right there, see, I might have tried to tailpipe them inside and probably try to undercut that. But I think PS2 could have, but Pickens is a physical guy and you want to stay on top, so I understand why he did that. But
also, if he goes underneath, maybe he runs into Hufanga and CD Lamb.
I think he could have squeezed through. I think he could have squeezed through. Yeah, I think he could have. Right. PS2 is good enough to squeeze through right here and undercut that and really pick that. But I think he's great. Still played a great play. Still had a PBU, so you can't knock him on that play. But me judging him, I think he could pick that.
Yeah, and if he goes underneath it, that's a house call. If he's on his feet. Okay, let's jump to the next play, which is the aforementioned Jahdae Barron interception.
2-man. It's always a team versus you always play his coverage with 2 high safeties, man to man across the board. And Jahdae, the tight end, wants him to jump inside. He jumps in a little bit, but he's able to be able to run with this tight end since he's faster than him as being a corner. And great job being able to stay right there on that hip and make the play. Good interception.
What's Dak looking at here? Because he's never open, and there's a safety or 2 coming to take his head off. If Jahdae's not underneath, maybe that pass gets there and then he just gets tackled hard. But I don't know. Right. I mean, this looks like
I'm going down low. I'm going to the slide if I'm Dak. I think Dak read this wrong. He just probably saw that as a rookie, and Ferguson hadn't been getting the ball all game, so he probably tried to force it to him. But it was definitely a bad throw, bad read. 3 guys on that tight end, and outside, if you see it right here on the corner route, he has him open.
Well, and Ferguson, who has been as good a tight end as there has been catching the ball this season, 0 catches. So that says something about what that defense was able to do. And Barron gets his first pick. He's got a fumble recovery now and a pick here through his first 8 games.
That's a pretty good start, man, as a rookie, getting on the board. And I don't know how many picks we have. He might have we got about 2 or 3.
Have 7 takeaways now, 4 interceptions. Brandon Jones has 1, right? He has 1. Tillman has 1. They got 2 in the game.
Oh, yeah, Tillman. Yeah, Tillman had a nice one. Man, we should have had – why didn't we put this one on the clips?
Well.
Come on, man. We got to remember that.
Asking you shall receive.
Oh, okay. We got it. There we go.
It was going to be a surprise. Hey, how did he get this? And then how about the run after the catch?
Perfect drop by outside linebacker. Breaks the tackle, makes 6 guys miss, parks Dak Prescott right there. Oh, man, if we just get a block from the, what was that, a fullback right there? Yeah. 1 block away, man. He can probably take it to the house. So, great job right there. Great call by Vance, calling a zone blitz right there. The Cowboys weren't ready for it. And, Dak continues, throw crucial picks. And, oh, man, look at that park, man. He stepped him. And, hey, I like it, man. We need to put this. Instead of Marcedes, you could have just put him in at tight end. Give this guy a roll.
Yeah, because I know this on special teams. It's been a little rough between the leveraging and the missed tackle on kickoffs. Yeah, just give him the ball. That's what we needed to do the whole time was, hey, how do you get Dondre Tillman the ball? You got to like a kid that spent 3 years in the UFL or whatever, finds his way to the NFL roster last year, made plays, 5 sacks as a 26-year-old rookie, and now making plays here. Yeah, that's pretty athletic at his because he plays outside linebacker, but he's bigger than the other 4.
Yeah, he's like a DN that can play outside. So yeah, that's nice, man, and that's good for him.
Too. Like CeeDee Lamb's not even looking at this. I remember in real time thinking, even if CeeDee turns around, he's gonna get obviously hit hard. But CeeDee never looks like obviously. Is this CeeDee or is this Dak? Because here CeeDee looks there, not even looking.
It's a terrible play call. It's the whole play is terrible, right? There's nobody open. Coach has a great scheme up versus them. Dak just needs to really throw it into the ground. That's really what he wanted to do. Just throw it away. He just happened to throw it to the outside linebacker, man. And it was a terrible play. And I don't know. They should have just ran the ball right there, right? That's a run look. Dak has to be able to hand the ball off right there for sure.
All right. And then our final play in the film room. The topic of the week, I heard where your pal Talib said Riley Moss is being racially profiled, but Riley Moss, back-to-back, I think, PI calls, which is if you're going to get him, that's where you get him. What can he do differently?
My advice would be to try to catch him up before he gets in the end zone, right? Riley, he's a couple steps in the end zone. I would like to be right on that line so then he can get hands on him earlier, right? Down the field, I think they're saying that he had his arm on his collar right there. It's hard to tell, and CeeDee has his arms on Riley. So you kind of let those things go, and great play, great defense. My only thing I would say is for Riley, if don't ever line up in the end zone, right? All of them, you see across the board, all our guys are on the end zone. He could have easily went to Pickens on the back shoulder right there because we gave him so much space. So, that would be my advice to those guys, but still great play. That's a tough PI call for sure.
Yeah, Riley's had a few of them. So, some people have said just get your head around quicker. Will that help if he's looking there versus...
If he gets contact with them earlier, he'll be able to get his head around faster. So
there you go.
It's sometimes as a DB, it's about inches and alignment. And if you align wrong, sometimes that can get you beat. But, Broncos are going to play man in the red zone. They're going to fight you, and that's why they're the number 1 defense in the red zone right now in the league.
Yeah. Well, that was our trip inside the film room. Let's jump to looking at the Texans. We were going to try to go behind enemy lines with your old teammate, longtime Texan, Houston resident Owen Daniels, but scheduling got screwed up, and it's Halloween and all that. So we'll track OD down the road because it's going to be sort of friendly behind enemy lines because he's obviously a Broncos Super Bowl 50 teammate. But looking at these numbers, and David, I know you can throw them up there. All that green on the left under the Broncos means they're top 10 offense and defense. But what jumps out to me is probably what jumps out to you is all the way on the bottom right, where we know the Broncos are number 1 in the league in sacks. And you see that the Texans are only middle of the pack. They are number 1 in third down defense. Texans are really good in third down defense. But look at where the Texans are ranked red zone compared to the Broncos in the red zone. Right. 31st or 31st is not good. They're 31st on both sides of the ball, actually, in the red zone.
Or that just means they have less attempts, right? Teams aren't getting to the red zone as much versus them as they are the Broncos, right? But as you can see right here is that the number 1 defense overall, top 5 in a lot of categories on defense, has a lot of interceptions and takeaways. So, the Broncos are top defense. This really is a battle of the top defenses. I do like the Texans secondary, right? Lassner, Bullock, Stingley is probably my top 3 corner. So this is a good secondary, very good secondary. Probably the best secondary that the Broncos faced all season. So I'm looking forward to seeing this matchup versus our receivers. See if we can continue to throw the ball down the field versus these guys. But this is they're definitely capable defense that we're going to see from the Texans.
And you played against D'Amico Ryans and obviously know what he's about. It does feel like they embody his personality, like we've seen with the Lions and Dan Campbell and other places where former players, Mike Vrabel in Tennessee and now in New England. But they're a base 4-3, so they're going to look different than the Broncos. As I mentioned, 16th in sacks, even with Will Anderson, a high draft pick, and Danielle Hunter, like guys that Danielle Hunter went to a bunch of Pro Bowls in Minnesota getting to the quarterback. They're middle of the pack. They're 16th in terms of sacks. So when you look at the other side with the Broncos being best in the league at giving up sacks, I understand that they're not bringing the exotics maybe the way Vance does, but what can the Broncos exploit, if anything, or find success with?
Well, this team is, like I said, they're pretty top 5 in everything, right? Except, the sacks, right? But, takeaways are up there. So that's all that matters anyways. So the Broncos got to be able to run the football, be balanced, have J.K. Dobbins being able to run that zone and being able to read the holes like he has, Harvey on the outside. And, you still got to throw at Stingley. You still got to throw at those guys. I think Cortland still thinks he can win some matchups with those guys down the field. He's gotten open on those guys before. We just didn't connect. I remember playing them a couple years ago. Russell overthrew him for a couple, wide open touchdowns. So we can get open on them and beat up. But I think it starts with the run game and then being able to find Cortland on those third downs and being able to move the ball down the field.
So Dobbins grew up outside of Houston. Court grew up about an hour outside of Houston. When you're going back home, how much can that boost a guy? Like you didn't have that in terms of, obviously there's not a team in Oklahoma, but when you played the Cowboys,
was my close game.
Kansas City is close to Tulsa. Dallas is close to Tulsa. But does that give guys a little extra juice?
Oh yeah, hell yeah. I mean, when I played KC, I always won the ball in Kansas City. And I think I did. I had a lot of great games out there. So Quarters he's gonna come back. I think he played good when we went there with Drew Lock. I think he balled. So I think Cortland's gonna be expected to go out there and have a good game. And it's a great challenge. He's going against a Pro Bowl corner, another guy opposite him that's pretty good. I think this is probably the best duo in the league that they'll see. So I think he'll be up for the challenge. And whoever else is from Texas, they'll be up and ready to go. And this is a big game, for both teams.
Yeah, there's obviously, like every NFL roster, a bunch of Texas dudes. I mean, Stidham is from further north in Stephenville. Brandon Jones from Waxahachie. JFM's from up that way. Played his college ball, though, at Stephen F. Austin and Nacogdoches. Jahdae Barron's from Austin. And so this is the closest game to home for him. And obviously he'll have plenty of friends and family, you got to think, and Longhorns that'll want to come watch him and hit him up for tickets. So we know that the Broncos travel well, and there's lots of Broncos fans there. But yeah, there will be, I think, added friends and family. Let's do this. Let's do a quick injury report before we get our previews and get out of here, predictions and get out of here. So as we do every week now, here is your Bell and Pollock injury report. So again, what a difference a week makes. No PS2, not headed to IR. Nate Atkins dealing with the knee that I think he banged up on that almost touchdown catch. And then Marvin Mims still in concussion protocol. On the other side, speaking of concussions, Nico Collins cleared concussion protocol. So it looks like Nico's going to go. Even with no Pat and with obviously no Nate Atkins this week, we'll see where Marvin is. Another Texas kid. He's a Dallas kid, but another Texas kid. Do you at least, how do you look at where the Broncos injuries are in general, knowing some teams have dozens of guys on it?
We're fairly healthy, other than losing all the tight ends that we lost. And then, I think we lost Powers. But the O-line's been able to, still play pretty solid. PS2, that's a big one, but he's not gone for the whole season. So we can still count him back. We just got to get through a couple games. I think if the Broncos probably penciled a tough game or a possible loss, this will probably be one, just going on the road. Haven't played too well in Houston. And CJ Stroud, this he's starting to get better. He's starting to start clicking this season. They're starting to get hot. But I just think that the Broncos defense will be too much, that pass rush. Their O-line is horrendous in Houston, and I don't think they can block our guys. So I got Denver. It's time to get predictions.
Yeah, let's get to predictions. You want to do Denver first? There's not a lot other than like Steelers. Yeah, Steelers, Colts is a good game because it'll give us another chance to see what the Colts are outside. and I don't know how cold it is in Pittsburgh, but I think it's getting cold everywhere. The Colts are slight favorites in Pittsburgh, but like beyond that, there's nothing that you're like, oh, Chiefs Bills. Give me a thought on Chiefs in Buffalo, where the Chiefs are 1.5-point favorites.
I got the Bills winning this one.
Me too.
Yeah, I got the Bills winning this one. It's gonna be a shootout. I would say 35-32 Bills. They win by like a field goal, but it's gonna be a close game for sure.
Yeah, I like the over in this as well. The Bills managed to win these regular season ones. It's the playoff ones that they struggle with, especially with the game being in Buffalo. They're going to rally behind being slight underdog. It's up to 2.5 now. Seahawks Commanders also kind of a sneaky good game. Jaden's back. That game's in DC. If you have a quick thought on that, the Commanders are actually 5.5-point favorites.
Oh man, I like Seattle. I like the way they're playing. I like the way their defense is playing. They got a lot of big corners, very physical. It's just on Kenneth Walker. Can they be able to run the football over there and be able to, get Darnold some help in that way? Jackson Smith has been balling at the receiver position. I think he leads the league. So I'm gonna ride with Seattle on this one.
Yeah, I'll take Washington at home, but I won't be surprised if Seattle goes in there and wins. And you don't know if Jaden finishes the game. Starting the game in the same as finishing when you're banged up. We thought we might get an okay game last night. The only thing that came out of the Thursday night game was Chris Grier gets fired, and you realize he's the guy that hired and then fired Flores, and then he's hired Mike McDaniel, and he's obviously put these players together. Were you surprised to see Chris Grier get let go, and our pal Champ Kelly for the second time in 3 years, an interim GM?
Yeah, it's crazy, man. I don't know when organization is going to just let Champ be the GM. I mean, he brings in a lot of the guys anyways, but in this situation, usually you see the head coach get fired first, and maybe the GM and the head coach wasn't seeing eye to eye, but the owner and the head coach see, or more in tune. I don't know. That's a weird situation, but I don't see Mike McDaniels last too long. You can definitely see his system is not connecting with Tua right now. They're not getting the best out of him. And usually when that happens, when the quarterback starts dropping, the head coach usually drops, and then he's usually gone.
Yeah, so we'll see how long they keep Denver's own Smoky Hill alum Mike McDaniel there. Maybe part of it is if an interim guy comes in and wins a few games, and you're like, oh, now do we have to keep this guy? If Eric Studesville, the running backs coach, or John Embry, who's there with them.
Studesville went viral.
Yeah. Oh,
he
yeah.
went viral on getting on Ollie Gordon, man. Ollie's that's one of my kids, man, down here, man. He comes and trains with us. But
if they weren't losing, you could text Stud and be like, hey, come on, take it easy on my guy.
No, man, I'm going to have to hit him up, man. I'm going to have to fight for Ollie on that, man. But it's the NFL's, man, not for long, even for the coaches. So I think the Dolphins have had plenty of chances. They had a solid team to go make some things happen, and they just couldn't play in the cold. They can't go on the road and win in the cold, so you can never expect too much out of Miami.
All right, and final thought: Broncos are 1.5-point favorites in Houston. How about that? How do you see it playing out Sunday?
I see it 24-25. Close game. 1 point. I'm going to give it the Broncos 1 point.
So the Broncos win 25-24. I said on TV this morning 2017. I'll stick with that. But if you can score 20 or more against a team that's only giving up 14.7, means you're doing something right. And I think the Broncos offense will actually be.
They got to score 20 points to win this game.
I think you're right. So that'll do it for us on this Halloween edition. I came dressed as Chris Harris. Chris just showed up looking like himself. Thanks to David and DC on the other side of the glass. Thank you for watching. We will catch you next week after the Thursday night game. We won't be previewing the Raiders. We'll be reacting to the Raiders on Football Fridays. Thanks for rolling with us, and happy Halloween.